פעם ראשונה אני הולך לעשות פודקאסט באנגלית, והיום בפודקאסט של סטואיקס אני הולך לארח את בן פלמר. לא חושב שהרבה מכירים אותו, אבל הוא מאמן. הוא עכשיו מבלה בארץ כמה חודשים. הוא מתאמן כרגע בקרוספיט ווייט סיטי, והוא בא קפץ פה לביקור בקרוספיט סיאנסן. מאמן קרוספיט, לבל 3. זאת אומרת, אין הרבה כאלה. חוץ מזה, בן אימן בערך 6 שנים בחול. בחול הוא בעצמו מארצות הברית, והוא אימן בחול. הוא אימן בקמבודיה, הוא אימן בוויאטנם, בקזחסטן, במלא מקומות מגניבים, בכווית. מלא מקומות עזויים, מגניבים, ויש לו המון ניסיון בלאמן, בלהיות head coach, בלהיות זה שכותב תוכנית אימונים למועדונים, בלאמן כל מיני סוגים של אוכלוסיות. יש מלא טיפים למאמנים, אם זה בכללי ככה מבחינת גישה לאיך לאמן, ואם זה גם מבחינת איך להרוויח יותר כסף, איך להישאר בתחום הזה וסוג של להמשיך ולא לפרוש. אז יש לו הרבה מה לספר, יש לו הרבה מה להגיד על השינויים קצת שקרוספיט עבר. באמת, אני חושב שזה פרק גם למתאמנים וגם למאמנים שיכול להסביר הרבה, וצפייה מענה. ומי שקצת קשה לו עם אנגלית, אז כרגע אין כתוביות, יכול להיות שיום אחד יהיו, אבל בינתיים תשתדלו להתמודד. תעשו לייק וסאבסקרייב, לי זה ממש מחמם את הלב שאני רואה סאבסקרייברס חדשים בערוץ. ממש Okay, so we're with Ben Pallmer.
Yeah.
He's level 3 CrossFit coach. The second level 3 CrossFit coach in Israel.
Yeah.
Because the first one, we don't know where is the first one, but he's the second one.
I started coaching in the U.S., and this would have been in 2000. See, I started CrossFit in 2011. Mm-hmm. And so I would have started coaching about a year after that. So let's call it like January 2012 is when I started coaching. And then I did about almost 2 years in the U.S. And then I've been coaching abroad for about 6 years now after that point. So it's been a really good vehicle to allow me to live and work and travel abroad and experience different cultures, and kind of using CrossFit as my vehicle to do that.
Okay, so I don't want to be like too formal. Mm-hmm. Just want to be like a conversation, because like we talk for hours. We just recycle some themes. So where have you coached around the globe in the last? You said 6 years, right? 6 years you were just coaching abroad.
Coming up on 6 years. So in chronological order, it would have been about 2 years in the U.S. And then from that point has been Kuwait, and then Kazakhstan. Brief stay in Jakarta in Indonesia, Cambodia, the UK, and then Vietnam.
Not a lot of CrossFit coaches who is here in Israel. Just travel and use coaching profession as a vehicle just to travel and get some money to travel. To just stay in places. So let's start chronologically. So what was the first stop, and why did you decide to move from US? Because I spent now a month in US and I love it.
Right.
So why would you just leave US and move to what was the first place?
The first place was Kuwait.
Okay. Why would you move from US to Kuwait to coach, to train?
It was completely circumstantial. So I had coached, and really at that point, coaching was my dream job. Okay. And I think a lot of people end up in that scenario. Like, I'm sure you and a lot of the other coaches here have felt the same way, where it's like, man, this is something that I'm passionate about. I like helping other people. It's fun. It doesn't feel, like a quote unquote real job. It feels like, I'm living my passion and stuff like there. So I'd been doing that in the U.S., and I was at a facility that was, fairly successful in Austin. And basically I kind of got to the point where I realized I wasn't going anywhere there. So I was kind of doing hourly work there, and I just could read the writing on the wall. So I had actually left that facility and taken a job that was essentially given to me to be a production manager at a kombucha company.
Okay.
Are you familiar with kombucha?
Something from mushrooms.
Something
mushrooms.
Yeah, not mushroom in the like mycelium sense, but mushroom is kind of the colloquial term for the symbiotic colony of yeast and bacteria, or SCOBY, that is used to ferment. Kombucha. So it's a health food type of thing. I know I've seen some in Florentine where I'm
drink. It's like an alcoholic drink.
It has a very.
This is how I know kombucha. Yeah. Like sometimes people drink beer. Sometimes people drink kombucha when they want to be healthy and still drink.
Yeah, it's very, very mildly alcoholic. Like you can probably get it up to like a 1 or 2%.
That's not a lot.
Yeah, but like you drink enough of it and you might catch a little bit of a buzz, especially if you don't have an alcohol tolerance. But it's bubbly. It's kind of a little bitter, so it could remind you of kind of an alcohol type of taste. So point being, I'd taken a job. I worked as production manager at a kombucha company, which was like fun for a couple of months. But then, it was like me and like 3 guys in a warehouse. And like I'm a very social, extroverted person. And so that was just kind of like, I felt like I was going crazy. Like I was like a great white shark in a indoor aquarium. Like I was dying from that point. So I ended up quitting that job. And then without, walking through too much, essentially a guy that I worked with who would love if I name drop him. His name is Diego Centeno. He's who's a bit of a, let's call him a hustler. Like he's a networker. He talks to people. He kind of collects contacts, and somehow he got in contact with these Kuwaiti guys, and he had been brought on as a business development manager and essentially offered me the opportunity to connect with them. And one thing led to the other, and I had a job offer to go out there in Kuwait. And it was, Kuwait was not a place that I was looking to go out to move. And I think for a lot of people, it's not something that they would go out of their way to go move to. But it was an opportunity to go coach and to be a full-time coach and to make an actual salary and to have health insurance and paid housing and paid transportation. So like at that time, like that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, sounds good. I want the housing and transportation. I'll just coach.
Right. Yeah, it was like you don't
knees out. Give me my car. Where's my car in my house?
Yeah. Elbows up, knees up. Okay, here's my driver. I'll go to my house. So, I had more reasons at that time to say yes than to say no, with the understanding that it would be like some pretty strong culture shock. But I'd always wanted to live abroad. Like that had been something that I thought about previously. And I had, previously thought about like teaching English in Thailand and just never did it. I never took the actual initiative to do it. And so when it was just kind of like presented to me, kind of given to me from there, I said, all right, well, I was essentially having an amazing time in Austin being unemployed. Like I was really having I was having the best summer ever. I was really tan. I was having a lot of fun, but I was going to need to work. And this was a great opportunity to me at that time that it seemed to go out. So that was really what started my venture coaching abroad. And from there, it's kind of been a very, without getting into any of the specifics, it's been a very circumstance that it was almost like, somebody talks to somebody, or, I get a message in Instagram, or, wind is blown my way and somehow I get in another position. So I've been lucky enough to be able to find a variety of seemingly random places to work and coach CrossFit at. After Kuwait, it was in Kazakhstan, which was an incredibly interesting place.
Okay, why?
Well, it's like a juxtaposition of probably 3 different cultures. Like it's part of the former Soviet Union, so there's huge still influence from there. There's a lot of ethnic Russians there. Russian is kind of the lingua franca, and then Islam is the predominant religion, but it's also a very open country as well. So there's a huge variety of religions that are practiced there. And then it's also next to Mongolia and China. So there's this kind of like Eastern influence as well. So like Kazakhs themselves are, for lack of a better term, or when most people think of Asian, they would like that's what Kazakhs look like, or they would look like probably what most people think of Mongolians. So it's this very huge country with a very small population, since large parts of it are populated, but it was part of the Silk Road, so it's a huge trading route. So you think of all the culture that kind of like spread throughout there in history. But yeah, that was that was a unique situation for me. Like
how do you get to Kazakhstan to coach? Like
how did that
you went to Kazakhstan before you had a job opportunity, or you moved there because like you got a job?
Yeah, that once again is just kind of one of these like random connections.
Okay.
A guy that I worked with very briefly in Kuwait had met one of these guys from Kazakhstan during his level 1.
Okay.
Right. And he when he had left Kuwait, gone up to Kazakhstan for 3 months, decided he's Scottish, had decided he wanted to move back to the UK, and essentially told me, hey, these guys are ready are looking for another coach. Would you be interested? And so then it happened. I got on well with them, and then went from there. And
here you are in Kazakhstan.
And here I am in Kazakhstan. And it's funny that most people know about Kazakhstan through Borat.
Yeah.
And if I had
my name is Borat.
yeah. And like if I had to like take and now to me, after having lived in Kazakhstan, is what's funnier to me about Borat now is that it's a play on most people's ignorance of what Kazakhstan actually is. It's like this country that nobody has any idea
how it looks
or what the people are like or what the culture is. So for Sacha Baron Cohen to make this character of Borat from Kazakhstan is like this like mythical country where you can say and do anything, because I think the character of Borat is Eastern European.
Yeah, he's just Eastern, like Bosnia or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's from the Balkans, or like at that point, he's just kind of like from that area. But he says Kazakhstan, and you're like, well, that makes sense because I knew nothing about this country. So it just sounds like it's a funny sounding country to a Westerner at least, and you know nothing about it. So he was able to get away with saying like I represent Kazakhstan, and for people in the US and the UK to be like, yeah, that sounds good. Like, of course, this is how people are. Whereas like he's essentially playing like a Eastern European gypsy or something like that. So like that. That also pushed me a little bit more out of my comfort zone, actually, as far as feeling more like an outsider. English is not common there. Yeah. So, those who do coach know you've got essentially really only 3 ways to coach. You've got verbal, visual, you've got tactile. Mm-hmm. So I would say it really pushed me as a coach to not just rely on verbal communication. But that was a scenario where I was like, oh, I can't just talk anymore. Like I've got to really be good at visually communicating stuff and teaching beginners and all people who haven't done CrossFit before. How do I do that when I can't just use my voice anymore? And I think that was a big, that's a big thing for a lot of coaches, is that you end up just relying on verbal communication, and you just kind of get by saying like, all right, guys, like, here's a hang power snatch. You know what's going on. And like, yeah, you're really going to like yank your elbows up and throw yourself underneath it. And,
just be faster. Like,
snap
just
move faster. Yeah. And that
do it with intention. Yeah. That's always a good cue. It is nothing.
But it works when it works. But you have to have more tools in your toolbox, and being in that scenario really forces you to. So I think it's a really good practice tool as a coach to say like, how am I going to get more visual coaching in my session today? Or I'm going to try.
How you did
it? Yet and Harasho go a long way, along with a decent visual cue. But and this is basically what they teach in the level 2 is 3 times from the front, 3 times from the side, and then demonstrating the points of progression. And a lot of that you can go over without talking, or even maybe talking, and like those 50% I know don't understand what I'm saying, but you can kind of still, if I break up a movement properly, can kind of get what's going on from that point. So that definitely pushed me a little bit more. And that, I think, evolved me a lot more as a coach. And so from that experience, I encourage a lot of coaches to try to say, like, how do I get more visual in this scenario? And how do I not assume that everyone knows what I'm saying when I say keep your
hang power snatch.
Yeah, hang power snatch, or like a 1 rep with a PVC pipe isn't actually good enough. Like that's, from there. Like I think that is a common thing that I see with a lot of coaches, both with people I've worked at and then with other coaches as well, is that, your clients have been at the gym for a while. They know what a hang power snatch is, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't stop coaching them. That just like administering the class and kind of like explaining the workout to them isn't good enough. Like that's not your job.
What's your job?
Your job is to instruct, and your job is to point them in a better direction to be better performers. And just showing them the workout and kind of like explaining to them isn't enough anymore to kind of have that like this perspective, like you're a fucking professional. Like you're not an administrator of, you're not like, I think serving someone a workout is a very different scenario than saying like, oh, I'm instructing you. I'm coaching you throughout this whole thing. Like I'm going to make sure your movement's the best it can be. Everybody understand what's going on. And I'm going to actively coach you the whole time. I'm going to utilize everything to my skill set. I'm going to be verbal. I'm going to be visual. I'm going to be tactile. I'm going to tax myself. I'm going to be tired at the end of class. I shouldn't want to work out at the end of class because I'm physically exhausted because I gave everything I can to other clients, from there. So I'm not trying to rag on other coaches, but that was something that I realized that I got away with. It's very easy to slip into that scenario where you're like, hey, everyone gets it. Like they know how to do a box jump. Or like, okay, everyone knows how to do a burpee. Okay, cool. You guys good to go? 3, 2, 1, boop. And there, and you just kind of like black out for the next, you just kind of black out for the next 12 minutes. And you're like, all right, guys, like, time. Cool. See you next week. From that point. And for me, that gets a little unsatisfactory. Like that's, I think that I've worked in a lot of different places and I've been in a lot of different scenarios. I think some of that is what's kind of shied me away from taking jobs at places that are like super, super transient. Now, some of these spaces that I've been at, Cambodia, Vietnam, especially, the population had a large expat population, not necessarily the locals, but clients are transient in the sense of like 6 months to 2 years. You can expect them to stay in places like that, whether they're volunteers or they're interns or they've got a international teaching gig or they work for the UN. They're usually on some sort of contract. Me as an employee, I'm on a contract. I'm not really like a full-time employee. So that's still transient, but it's not the same sense of like working in Phuket or in Bali or some of these like vacation places like from there. And I think is like I want to, for me as a coach, if and when I coach, it's like I want to squeeze every drop out of that. I want it to be like a religious experience for people in the sense of like I want to give my all into that. I want people to get something out of it. I want it to be a physical and an emotional, like a full body type of experience that they get. And if you're always working with people who are like gone in 3 days, it's kind of like, you're only going to give so much. But I feel like a lot of coaches get to that point with their athletes that live there. Like, oh, I've coached this person for 6 months. I know they're staying. Guys, here's the workout. Have at it. Take it from there. So you're never done coaching. I think that's it's like your job never stops. It doesn't matter if you have a CrossFit Games athlete in your class or a regionals athlete or sanctionals, I guess is the term now. Is like your role never actually stops from that point. You shouldn't stop coaching. It's like you just go deeper. There's levels to it. From there you can go further at that point. What you do with a beginner where you're trying to get them to just understand a movement versus someone where you're like, I want to break down your mental barriers. Like, how do I break through your psyche? From there, that's what you do in an advanced athlete who it's no longer about like, let me teach you how to do this. But for a lot of beginners, it is. And so I think, it's like the pursuit never stops. It's like you never actually become like that virtuosity is never actually achieved, whether you're an athlete or a coach. And I think that's...
But then you see the level one stuff, They're real good at it.
They're fucking.
Like, you look
they're
at them
fucking
like
good.
you want to be like him. Like
Oh yeah, like, and that is, it's been a long time since I did my level 1.
I need to do my level 2.
Yeah, you're at the point.
I have like a half a year.
You're about to be kicked out, right?
Yeah, I need to renew my level 1, so I need to do level 2.
Yeah, that idea of like, what would happen if the level 1 staff is evaluating you to be on the level 1 staff? Would they be happy with this performance? Or if those of you when you do the level 2, or anybody who listens who's done the level 2, they're ruthless. They'll pick you apart. Like, I think one of the best things you can do as a coach is go to the level 2, because they will rip you apart as far as what you're doing or what you're not doing. You take that energy, you bring it back to your own gym, your clients will appreciate it. You'll feel more satisfied in your job. Like, it feels good to do your job better. Yeah, like, does it actually feel good to kind of like half-ass something, or like 3/4-ass something? Like, I think it feels good to like pour into it, and people appreciate that, and they give you more. You give more to people, they give more back. So that, taking that mentality of like, is this like level 1 staff level coaching? It's an almost impossible task to do from there. But how do I, coach 20 people through a complex movement, dynamically assess all of them, cue and correct them, see all of them, hawking the room, from that point? It's an impossible task, but you still want to be fighting for that. From there, it doesn't matter if you can do verbal communication with them. You pull out every weapon you have in that scenario, and you're trying to, improve your athletes from that point.
In your opinion, how many hours in a row can a good coach? Like, sometimes you can have 5 hours in a row in coach classes, and it's always like the first hour, it's like it's a test run.
Yeah.
Like, you have maybe some mistakes, maybe it took a little bit too long, maybe it took, and then like the second hour is always the best, because like you already have some jokes in your pocket, you can make it a little bit more fun, and you are good with the times, you're really like good with it. The third hour probably is good, but then you have some kind of like a decline. You get tired of of moving people through the same workout. So in your opinion, what would be like the optimal scenario for a coach? Like, for how many hours, or maybe?
When I have been in a position of scheduling, like I guess I've been coaching 7.5 years, something in some form, 7.5 years, something like there. And it's been in various roles of just coaching, just doing a lot of coaching, to being, a head coach is like an honorary title, to being head coach is, more of like an actual title, to being like manager as a title, along those lines. And then, especially in the position where I'm actually scheduling people, that is something that you as a manager, an owner, or a head coach, whoever's doing the scheduling, the roster, the rota, as people in the UK would say, that's something that I think is important to take in consideration. I don't know how your experience has been. For me, 3 classes in a row is about the most I can do before I know there's a strong drop off in my coaching. Like, first class, exactly. It's exciting. It's interesting. It's like, ooh, what's going on? How am I gonna game this? The second one, you got a little bit more figured out. Maybe you know those jokes. You got the delivery kind of lined up. The third one, you're like, how smooth can I deliver this? I'm gonna finish 3 minutes early.
Yeah.
Like, I got all my jokes lined up from there, but I'm also using fake energy. From that. The third, in the morning, 3 classes in a row isn't too bad. In the evening, 3 classes in a row, like I'm using fake energy a little bit more. That's just me. Different people have different kind of circadian rhythms and energy levels from there. I believe you can do more. 5 is the maximum for sure you could do per day without just being like of the same exact class before you just like implode as a person. But you need a decent amount of break between the two, or a little bit of a break between the two. But it's also hard to do split shifts, to do morning and evening.
Yeah. And
that's the scenario that I think a lot of coaches end up in, is they do split shifts, whether they're trying to make ends meet and they're working at 2 gyms, or they're kind of like this like owner coach scenario where they're kind of doing everything, and they're just like, you're doing the 5:30, 6:30, 7:30 a.m. in the morning, which in Israel isn't super popular. And then you're coming back and doing the 5:15 and 6:15 p.m. You can do it, but it's rough. It's not sustainable from there. So you can do more classes in a row or more sessions in a row if you're doing like PT or something that's a little different pace. You know, PT's different pace, different energy. This voice that I'm talking in right now is like my actual speaking voice. Mm-hmm. I know you've never seen me coach.
Nope.
Right? So this like radio voice that you're hearing right now, this radio voice that you're hearing right now is like my actual speaking voice. Like I'm calm, like what is it, like 9 p.m. at night or whatever. If I'm coaching, I'm up here. I'm a lot more presentational. It's a lot louder. I'm projecting from my diaphragm.
Did you work on it, or it's just something naturally, like you have those different voices?
Nothing is natural. It's instinctive. My superpower is that I have years of theater as a background.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I have no fear of public speaking. I have no fear of looking like a jackass or tap dancing in front of an audience. So like coming from a theater background when I was a kid and growing up in middle school and high school, that I think was a huge benefit. It was like I know how to project. I know how to control a room. I know how to catch people's attention. I know how to like use dramatic.
That was kitschy.
Pauses.
But I liked it.
Right? You were trapped right from there. All that came from theater and from public speaking and along those lines. So I've got a character. You know, it's like you just flip into character. You flip into position. Like I'm putting on a show. I'm putting on an act to an extent. Like I'm still me. I'm not me, but it's a different flavor of me from there. But from my like training previously is like it switches out of being kind of more in my throat or in my chest. It switches into a little bit more of a nasal. It's a little bit more nasally, but that's because I can project a little bit more. My natural speaking voice is a little low. So if I speak up here, a lot of people can hear me a lot better, and I can hit the consonants a lot easier.
I don't think that I ever thought about like my voice when I deliver workouts, or like when I coach and when I don't coach. But that's a good point. Like, I understand like how important it is, but like I never really like paid attention to it.
Well, from like a mechanical standpoint, I analyzed that from my background in theater and choir for like 7 years. I'm always thinking about like, you know, the chest voice, you know, throat voice, nasal, you know, nasal voice, switching into a, you know, whatever head voice when you're switching into falsetto and, you know, stuff like there. So, from a mechanical perspective, though, you know when you've yelled, a lot. Have you ever had a day where you lost your voice after coaching?
Happened
a
long time ago, but it did.
Right, but like there's a mechanically speaking, there's a difference between using your diaphragm, and I'm not going to scream now because your neighbor is going to wake me up, but it's like that's me projecting using my my diaphragm to project out, rather than like screaming where I'm straining my vocal cords a little bit more. And I think it's fine to actually scream like occasionally in class. If you want to get somebody pumped up, you want to get up in their face. You want to, you know, get somebody PR knowing that they will respond. That they'll respond to it.
Yeah, some people they can just get frustrated.
Look, I've made people cry. You learn not to do that, but like that's a tool to use. Sometimes it's fine. Like sacrifice yourself for your client. Don't get like nodules in your voice, but like there's an extent where like, you know, screaming or using your like throat voice may be okay. But that's something I think about a little bit, and I try to be aware of that when I'm doing like longer coaching sessions of like, I need to project better because I know that I'm going into my throat a little bit more. I can feel myself getting burned out, and like your job is, if you're coaching properly, your job relies on your voice.
Yeah.
It goes back to like if you're coaching lazily, then your job kind of. You're just kind of showing someone the workout and you're like, well, you're serving it to them.
Have you seen the workout on the app yet?
Yeah.
It's the same one.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
You're a waiter. You know, you're like, hey guys, you ordered this workout and here it is. Yeah, you know, we've got a wad with lettuce, tomato, and onion. And okay, here it is. And have that. Enjoy it. You know, like from there, like you're not a coach at that point. You're just an administrator. You're a server of it.
But like a lot of times thinking it really depends on, I don't want to say like programming. That's programming, you know, if it's good or bad, but it depends on like scheduling in the programming. Like if you don't have enough time, like if you have 2 pieces in a workout and both of them Well, first thing, like when I program workouts, one thing I'm trying not to do is that even if it's a 2 pieces workout, it shouldn't take more than half an hour, like more than 30 minutes of work in both of those pieces. If it's a 1 piece workout and it has like it will take half an hour, maybe some rest, maybe some intervals, then there will be no other piece to this workout because then. But I still think that's like it's still too much. Like it's still the work itself is too long to have time to coach. So a lot of times it depends on this, because if you have 100 burpees for time workout and now you have to coach a class and that's your workout of the day, well then you have probably you must coach. You can't just serve it because they have an hour that you need to somehow entertain them and make them feel that they really like came today and they got something from it, not just the burpees because they could do the burpees at home. So I think it kind of depends on it. I don't know. What's your opinion?
That's something where it's like, I think it's very easy to get away with saying like, I'm going to fill the hour with just
movement.
Like, I'm going to fill the hour of programming. I'm not I'm not averse to filling the hour with movement. I think that more of the hour should be filled with movement than not. Like it's not like they shouldn't not move. The art of programming, and if it's not one of these scenarios where like the owner is the coach that does everything and they're just kind of like they're basically the lone wolf doing everything. Somebody programs, somebody coaches. Okay, from there, like to an extent, like you've just got a lot of shit to go through, and there's not a lot of space for coaching. Sometimes you're doing if you do a WOD plus strength or a strength plus WOD type of session, there's not a lot of space to actually to instruct and then coach in the same way. It can be a good coach will always find space to coach, but you oftentimes then become like a timekeeper and an administrator. So it's brave. It's a brave step as a coach or as a programmer to say, or as a gym owner, to say like, yeah, we're going to do a WOD as the workout, and you kind of do these more kind of old school type of stuff, or do a heavy day as the WOD. You may get a lot of resistance. People may not like it because they're used to this kind of like, I just want to get my sweat on stuff from there. And then, it's no judgment. Everybody is like, a business is business. You got to make money. You got to get people in the door. You got to give people what they want. But as far as like coaching athlete development standpoint, it's that fine line of like, how do I give them what they want, progress them as an athlete a little bit. We talked about this earlier off books, of like, hey, 1% improvement is 1% improvement. If somebody improved 1% on their squat every day that I coach them, after 100 sessions, they would be 100% better. I mean, that's a fanciful number, but it's like, I don't need them to be world class in one day. I don't need them to show virtuosity in one day. Are they safe? Did they have fun? Great. Crack on. Let's do it, from there. See you next time. We'll do better. That's the whole, there's like, that if you can just be a little better every day, that's fine. To go back to your question was like, when you have sessions that are just full of programming and you just become like, okay guys, hey, we got 15 minutes, fucking go. You get squat. Okay, you put all that equipment away, get some more equipment. Okay, like, here's the workout, go. I gotta go. We have another class in 2 minutes. Or we have another class in 30 seconds. You can get out. Everybody else come in. I gotta do this all over again. People like it because they feel like they're getting a lot.
People love it.
People love it because they feel like they're getting a lot of a workout. It's a hard choice, and it's a brave choice to make, to say like, okay, we're just gonna squat today as a CrossFit program, or we're just going to do a WOD today, which is like funny because I think that's the original kind of CrossFit style programming, and HQ has really doubled down on that the last year or so. Yeah, for sure. So like that idea is like, I did that at the last affiliate that I worked at in Vietnam. We had a lot of discussions about this. The owners were very passionate, and so we were always open to having discussions, and we really broke it down. They shared similar ethos to me, where I had been in the past where I'd done strength plus WOD. And a lot of that was like my own self-interest. Was like, I like doing class class programming. I like hopping in classes. So it was kind of self-serving. I was like, this is what me, myself, as an athlete, I want to do. So, of course, my athletes want to do it. People love it. Like, to some extent, people love strength cycles and percentages. And, like, certain type of person, like type A personality really loves, like, nerding out on that, right? But that, I felt like eventually you just end up, like, you're not coaching. You're just administrating a workout. And maybe you masterminded this strength cycle or this programming, and like I certainly was like up my own ass about like I'm so clever and like oh god, in 12 weeks they're gonna feel awesome, you know, like you're like their capacity's gonna, and like, you know, people did get better, but to an extent though they're getting better just by exposure. You're not getting better by your actual instruction to the same extent. So, you know, I feel like I came full circle where I was at the point where I'm actually just programming heavy days. Back squat, 5-3, 2-2-2-2-2, something like that. What do you do with your class? Like, well, that's hard. You fill the hour up. You know, you can actually do some mobility and prep positional work. You do a general warm up. You do a specific warm up. You do some potentiation drills. When was the last time you did like a max rep box jump in a WOD, or like in a class? Like for fun, not like you're not really like testing them, but you're like, yeah, guys, just like see, or like let's have a contest and see who can do like the most double broad jump, the furthest. Like spend 5 minutes fucking around doing that. But there's a huge amount of evidence to show that like that type of potentiation work actually does a lot for heavy lifting, right? And then you go squat and you're actually like administrating like, okay, we got 30 minutes, we got 20 minutes, whatever, 25 minutes to squat. I'm going to dictate each and every set that you're going to do, and I'm going to take it from there. Large class is hard. 20 people class is hard. I capped it at 12, maybe 13, 14 from there. But like a lot of people got a lot of benefit out of that. But it's hard. You got to convince people. You got to be all in. Your whole staff has to be all in. Ownership has to be all in. Management has to be all in. It takes a while to buck people up against to get them, and then they say like, I don't feel like I sweat. But then, you know, the next day you do like a hero WOD where you murder them. And this is a scenario where like, hey, sometimes you do these longer sessions. You don't have a lot of time to do it, but some of the hero WODs or some of these classic CrossFit WODs are like big chippers are kind of silly and silly in the sense of like a logistics or a facility. Like Lumberjack 20 or something like that, like fun to do.
Filthy 50.
Filthy 50. Fun to do with you.
When you're alone.
When you and your friends doing it. Fun,
like 15,
fun to do. Total sacrifice.
Impossible.
Yeah, it just becomes like do whatever looks free. You're like, yeah, a piece of equipment looks free. So it's especially in spaces that aren't like, you know, just giant warehouses and stuff where you have like a million pieces of kit. So assuming it's a fairly simple WOD, you can still go over it. Like I've been like 50-minute time cap. You still have time to like instruct a little bit. During those sessions, it's hard. It's hard to coach. I think that's the hardest thing to coach is like during these long like endurance or stamina or hero WOD style sessions where it's like, well, I'm just standing around, make sure nobody breaks their back. Like if that's your level of coaching where you're like, I'm making sure no one breaks their back, you're not coaching. You're a lifeguard at that, you know, like you're just making sure no one dies. Like no one's going to sue the facility, and I don't think this is as much of a sue-happy country as the U.S. is, but like in that scenario where it's like you're not coaching, you're just a lifeguard from that. So I always, occasionally it's okay. Like sometimes you just need to, suffer. You know, that's okay. Like Murph, you just need to suffer.
Just need to work hard.
You just need to work hard. You need to work hard, but on the same page, there's other days when like, yeah, there's time to learn. There's time to develop. You have a WOD that's 10 minutes long. I know you said 100 burpees. That's a little bit of an extreme example. I can do a burpee skill session. It's hard to fill up an hour with that though. I can probably do a half-hour session on that. But if you're doing like some sort of scenario where it's like you got a 12-minute WOD, what do you do with the other 48 minutes? You do a general, you know, you can do some positional mobility work. You can do some general warm-up. You can do some specific warm-up. Then you get to skill work. I'm sure there's a movement in there. Maybe you got burpees, you've got hang power cleans, and you've got kettlebell swings. Okay. Kettlebell swing, low skill. It's the most fun. Burpee, low skill. Hang power cleans. Okay. You can probably do it. It doesn't have to be strength work. You can do an EMOM. You didn't even have to be on the. It doesn't have to be on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
You as a coach can say, "Hey, I've got 15 minutes. Okay, guys, we're going to do, some like light, medium, hang power cleans, whatever you feel is appropriate. Based off of how this feels, you should have a good idea what you should want to do for the WOD. And then they have a better idea. They can actually, they as an athlete, learn to become better athletes because you gave them time to kind of explore weights and play around and, build up and build down and play around. And you say, yeah, that's too much. Practice cycling 3 reps in a row. That's how much you're going to want to break these, 9 reps up into because it's supposed to be kind of a medium heavy weight. Play around with it. I'll give you 10 minutes to play around with it before we even do the WOD, from there. It warms them up on a neurological level, but then also like they learn to evaluate themselves better and be introspective. It's not you as a coach saying like, I decide the weight for everyone, which is great, but it's even better when they become intuitive and intelligent themselves. And that's what separates a good athlete from just kind of like someone who just shows up to just sweat. Giving space for your athletes to actually learn from your expertise and allowing them the space to grow and not just the space to sweat. Take the brave, try to make a brave decision. And like if you know a lot, allow them the space to learn from you.
We talk about personal training and PT sessions. In Vietnam, we had a lot of PT sessions.
Sure, yeah.
And like one of my struggles in my career was kind of moving, how to call it, like selling PT in a CrossFit environment, in a group class setting.
Yeah.
Because, you're there, you coach the class. Maybe you have an hour of open gym that you're just staying in the gym and you're still there. You're still a coach. You're still an authority. You're not working out or something. You're still there. You're the guy that, orchestrates everything that happens in the gym.
Yeah.
And after the workout, people come to you and ask you questions and you answer them because you're a good guy. You want to coach and, sometimes you put your like financial status like on the back burner, and you just help them and coach them and help them. What is he doing? Okay, and you help them with everything, and then you get to a point when you say, okay, I want to sell PT, and I think like in a global gym it's easier. That's like more. It's common. Like it's easier to come up to someone and say, okay, your squat doesn't look good, and I'll give you a few tips, but to get your squat better, let's have a personal training.
Right.
And in CrossFit setting in a group class where people already pay to get coached, like it's harder to sell, but sometimes like selling personal training for coaches, this can be like a deal breaker for staying in this profession long term and not just, as a side job or just some side hustle or just between jobs until I get to my kombucha production something. No, seriously, because it's hard to make a good salary in this job is coaching group classes because first of all, you can't really coach a lot of classes. Like you get burned after 3-4 hours a day. Yeah. So and even if your salary is good, well, you won't make enough to keep a house, family, kids, and everything else. So you probably need to fill in the gap with some personal training. Maybe it is a little bit expensive, more expensive. You get how do you bring people into personal training in this CrossFit group class? Facilities.
That's a tricky thing, and I think a lot of I've never worked at a Globo gym.
I did.
yeah. Well, like there's nothing wrong with it. It's just I didn't ever really step foot in a gym until I started CrossFit. Like I was a client, originally. Like that's how I started into CrossFit, and so that was just the world that I grew up in. So I'd never been in that scenario where you're kind of like selling PT or kind of like, sharking around the gym and kind of like posturing around and, whatever you're doing. So I've only ever worked in CrossFit gyms. And I never worked as a personal trainer, which is something that I've bumped up against people I've worked with or, other, owners and stuff who had come from a personal training background. I'll get back to your actual question in a moment, but a personal training background is amazing. It's great because you know how to progress people. You've got some banter. You can chat with people. The common trap that people get into is like, then when you're in a coach coaching position of a group class, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20 people. You go and have little micro personal training sessions with people during the session, which is great. Maybe makes them feel real special, but then you neglect everyone else. So it's that fine line of like taking your knowledge, but not actually trying to apply it in a personal training scenario. You can't like turn your back to everyone else, work with someone for 5 minutes on their squat position, and then turn your back around and hope no one's side, and then like kind of go and do it, and just kind of like keep going to do.
Yeah, like and if you have 10 athletes at the class and you give everyone 5 minutes, it's 50 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's just kind of it's just holding context and understanding they're different products, and you just have to do different things. So outside of that little tangent, I had a lot of personal training clients the last year that I was in Vietnam. A large part of that, I will say, a large part of that is because I did my own digital marketing for myself.
Okay, so you brought people from outside the gym, not the clients.
100% correct. Yeah, I brought people from outside into the gym because I was running my own Facebook ad campaigns and landing pages and kind of following up with them. And I'd done a bit more like sales training and had applied that. So if there's any personal trainers in the city that want to take advantage of that, hit me up. But so I had a lot of clients that came in through there.
You do a webinar about this stuff.
Right. Yeah. It's an effective way. If you're willing to put a little bit of money in, you can turn that into a lot of money. You know, in Vietnam, my claim to fame is I spent $100 on Facebook ads, and I turned it into $1,500.
Okay.
Of revenue.
That's a lot.
That's my claim to fame as far as digital marketing goes. But some of that's situational. But the outside of that, as far as like internal clients, I think a lot of it is like you being authentic in class, caring about people, really caring about people, concerning about them, making them feel like they'd want to spend more time with you and want to spend more money with you as well, and kind of knowing that you've got a little bit more. And it's, I'm sure you've experienced it. There are people who'd be like after class and be like, "Hey Vlad, like, like I'm trying to work on my butterfly pull-ups. Can you watch what I'm doing?" And they're like, they look like a frog being electrocuted or whatever at that point. And you're like, well, hey man, like you need to work on everything. Or like, have you ever heard of the hollow body? Like from there. But like there are opportunities. Like you don't want to be a dick. And if someone's like ask for a little bit of help, they offer a little window, and you give them a little bit, and you say like, if you really want to work on this, we can do. Tone changes everything. Say like, hey, I'm not going to answer your question. We can do personal training if you want to learn about it. You're a dick. Fuck off. You give them a little bit of advice, and you say like, like if you really want to, if you want to work on this, we can do like some sort of a couple sessions to really kind of drill up your gymnastics position, and I can give you some homework to kind of work with you on this type of stuff, and bet we can get you some butterfly in a month or something like that. Like that kind of angle that you take changes a lot. So it's not so much that you're going around and sharking people. I've never done that. In terms of like sharking people across a gym seems a little.
Yeah, I think it feels kind of.
That feels disingenuous. That feels contradictive to like the space that you're trying to create a little bit more. So if someone comes to you asking for advice, oftentimes for free, you can give a little bit. In nutrition advice, same thing. You should probably not drink soda so much. If you really, if you want to talk about it a little bit more, we can actually do some sort of consultation. Context and tone change everything.
Okay.
From my training and sales that I've done, and just my own experience, like 8 years or whatever, kind of doing this in-person type of stuff, is like the way you talk to people matters a lot. Being actually concerned for them matters a lot. Just because you're a professional, you have good advice. You shouldn't work for free. Just like an artist shouldn't work for free. Exposure, whatever that is. But you don't want to like rub somebody the wrong way necessarily from there. It's there's a way to kind of advertise yourself a little bit more, but sharking around the gym and kind of going up to somebody and be like, "Hey man, like your snatch doesn't look too good. We could do some PT and I could get
wink.
I could get you to. I think you could qualify for RFA next year if you work with me for the next 8 months. Whatever like that. Yeah, that's sleazy. I wouldn't do that. It's a matter of kind of finding that sweet spot of like
giving advice,
positioning yourself as an expert, someone who honestly cares about someone, and working with you more intensely is an option. And that, that's what I found internally. That's what works really well. Externally, it's a little different. You can kind of sell people a little bit more. You bring someone in on like a sample session or whatever, and kind of whoop them up from there. But at least intern
sample session is in PT.
Yeah,
so it's a good thing to
taster session. Yeah, I mean, like without giving away all my secrets, but like doing like a free trial session,
hour long.
Yeah, sure. It's like giving it yeah. If you're drawing people from the outside, they know nothing about CrossFit, they know nothing about functional training, they don't know anything about you. Give them a. If you're willing to, you got space, time in your day, time in your hour. Give them a free hour. Really be invested in their success. Show them a good time. Don't murder them.
Yeah.
Like later on, once they've paid you, you can murder them. Show them a good time. Make them trust you. Because they know nothing about you. They know nothing about CrossFit. Maybe they don't know anything about functional training. Maybe they actually have a bad idea about some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you can make a pitch. Or you make a little bit more of a pitch, from that point. But you've kind of made this transactional of like, hey, I'm giving away some free personal training sessions. From that point, does anyone want to try one? You do a good job. More often than not, they'll buy a package. In my experience, from there. Internally, though, they've already sampled you through coaching. I want to give something away free for essentially like current clients. To some extent, they're essentially upgrading themselves to personal training clients from there. But for someone who doesn't know and someone who wants to do personal training is different than someone who wants to do CrossFit a lot. Most CrossFit clients,
they love the group setting.
They love the group setting. They love the environment. They love the camaraderie. Maybe they want to do one time a week. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of CrossFit gyms and coaches do better off with kind of like specialty courses or classes. Like if you said like, hey, I'm going to do like a 1 month handstand workshop, 1 day a week, 400 shekel. I'm kind of making numbers up a little bit along those lines, but it's that type of thing where it's like, it's not a huge investment. Coach can still walk away with a decent amount of like extra money. A small group of people, 8 people, walk away with kind of the semi-personal training environment. And they can work on what they really want to work on. But they're maybe not the people who are actually going to do personal training, from there. But I personally have found good success with that type of thing. Literally done like 4 weeks of toes to bar.
Yeah.
Which seems like a silly thing to do, but like someone who doesn't quite get it, like you can do a lot with like toes to bar as far as like, that's really like, as far as I'm concerned, like outside of the hollow and arch position, that's kind of like the gateway drug to gymnastics movements.
Yeah.
From there. So like you can just like work on that. That actually goes a long way. I mean, you can tie a lot of other stuff in there as well, but handstand, toes to bar, like obviously like a muscle up and stuff like that. That works really well. And that I think for coaches who are struggling to get personal training in a CrossFit gym environment, try doing these type of like, this is really like, I have no, I'm not competing with anyone here. Mm-hmm. So it's like, try to talk to your owner, talk to your manager, whoever is making these decisions, be like, I'm really excited about teaching people handstands, holds and handstand walks and working on like position. I think that was the way that I had kind of angled it. It was like a 4-week position workshop, which translates into handstands, a lot, but, or, 4 weeks on like toes to bar and kipping mechanics and, lat strength or, whatever it turns down to. That works really well. If you're having trouble getting personal training clients, you want to make a little bit more money, something you're excited about teaching, really passionate about, but there isn't quite enough like to do like a specialty class, try offering a course for 1 month, like 1 day a week.
Mm-hmm. With some homework.
With homework, yeah, people love that. That offers a lot. I would, my original reason I got into coaching CrossFit was because I came from an endurance sport background. Mm-hmm. So like, I don't know if you've seen my massive physique, but like, like when I came from an endurance sport background, so I ran cross country in university and
we should disable like your Arbox registration to endurance classes. It's just not fair.
Yeah. So, well, it's been so long that I'm not sure I have any of that actual capacity anymore. Originally, 10 years ago, whatever, that was my thing. You know, like I was doing triathlons and marathons, and you know, I did an Ironman, and I retired after that, basically. But I originally got in basically coaching because the owners wanted me to coach like CrossFit for endurance athletes. Mm-hmm. So that I kind of had like a specialty program, and that was my original introduction. And then at that facility in Austin, I coached a running specific workshop. Now, I'll challenge any coach to try to coach running, and I don't know, I guess pose running still taught in CrossFit world.
I know it's still taught, but it's like when I started to coach, I was like reading a lot of stuff. It's Brian McKenzie was like the god.
Yeah. And obviously he's divorced from CrossFit now, but or HQ at least. So
a lot of them.
Yeah.
Kelly started, I think, has nothing to do with HQ now.
John Welburn, they're they're
CrossFit football.
They're more entrepreneurs now. But anyway, so like that, I challenge anyone to try to teach running.
We should have a meeting, like nostalgia meeting, and just bring up those like power athlete and those.
Let's talk about 2012, brother. Yeah. So like that type of thing of like, I was trying to teach someone running, like teaching pose running. Mm-hmm. I did that for.
Did you use pose running while you were an endurance athlete?
When I was an endurance athlete, I did not do pose running. My claim to fame is that I started doing CrossFit, started changing to pose running, mm-hmm. and then I was essentially like running speeds that I'd never hit before.
Really?
Like
So you had a good experience?
I had a really good experience during those first couple of like that first run of doing CrossFit. Like, you know, my positional strength improved a lot, and my structural integrity improved a lot. My anaerobic capacity improved a lot, and then I would change my running technique to pose as opposed to kind of. I wasn't a massive heel striker, but it was kind of somewhere in the middle a little mm-hmm. bit. So like I had like PR'd my mile, you know, like which was huge, you know, from times when I was just running, purely running, and I could beat my mile time, you know, and I'd like won a race, like first place. Now it was a relatively small, like 8K trail race or something like that, but like to be on the podium and be number one, you know, like at that point. And this was about 6 months after I started CrossFit, 6 months after I started doing pose running. So for my own running, I was the best runner that I ever was. Maybe not in the longest distances, but in that kind of medium distance, 5, 10, even a mile, than I ever had been from that point. So then I just kind of stopped being as interested in running from that point. But teaching people running like that, I had decent success doing that. But it's hard to get people excited about running. For a lot of people do CrossFit because they're like, I don't want to run. Or they're like, they view like, how do you get fit? You go run and stuff, and then you're like, oh, I hate running, so I'll do CrossFit. I'll do CrossFit. You know, so
skill swing.
Yeah. Most CrossFitters have an idea of like running sucks. Or like I hate running, and like that. And most gyms like have kind of like a running sucks.
Keeping pull-ups and running aren't they the same? Metabolically,
yeah.
If you could like keep for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'll just row. I would say there's a benefit to running just because people hate it so much. Like, you know, I think we talked about this earlier. It's like the most frequent workout on CrossFit.com is 5K run. So I don't think you have to be fast. Like just having that capacity is good, even just mental. Just to say, I'm going to hang on for 25, 30 minutes, for a non-runner. Like that's finishing under
25 minutes.
That's great. Yeah. Well, 24 minutes, I think, is even for most CrossFitters, assuming you don't have any like injuries or something like there, like under 25, like 24 is a great goal. Like just to be like, I finished in 24. I just kind of stuck with it. It was uncomfortable, but I did it. People who don't like running, have never ran a lot, like just under 30, just do it. You just did it. Check. Can you move for this period of time doing something that you don't like? There's benefit in doing that. Like from there. Mm-hmm. How functional is it? I don't know. But mentally though, huge win. I saw a lot of people make a lot of huge progress just from like programming a 5K run once a quarter. Super brave. from a coach or a programmer or an owner, just to say like,
Yeah.
hey guys, we're just going to do a 5K run. If you don't want to show up, don't show up. But if those of you do, like, we're here to support you. So like, I think this is, I'm not really like telling every owner or every coach or programmer to be like, you need to put a 5K in every quarter, but it's kind of these decisions, like commitment to making brave choices, even if that means that maybe like some of your
Clientele won't like it.
Well, but the same page, it's, you know, it's your business, it's your livelihood, it's your coach's livelihood. If everybody leaves because you're programming 5Ks all the time, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
But it's like that discussion of like, hey, we're all in this together. It's a thing we do. Everyone has their own version of CrossFit. Once a year, do a 5K. Like, here we go. That's my challenge. Like, once a year, program a 5K. And kind of say, like, guys, if you want to do it, you want to do it. It's tough. It's hard. If you're a real CrossFitter, you're going to do it. If not, cool. We'll see you tomorrow. And from that point, I think that's it's like, yeah, take the chance to be brave and do things that may make people uncomfortable outside of ways that they're already uncomfortable. Like, yeah, like, is double Fran horrible? Yeah. But people will still show up because they're like, oh man, it's hardcore. I'm awful at weightlifting. Let's say that. Like, snatch, clean and jerk, like, I'm shit, right?
Okay. Never seen you lifting, so
your eyes haven't been burned yet. No, I mean, like, whatever. Like, I'm okay, but not where I'd like to be. Let's say that. My movement is okay, but just the numbers aren't there. So I had never been like, yeah, I'm gonna just do weightlifting. I'm sure, I don't know if you've ever done that. You've met people who have been like, yeah, I'm done with CrossFit. I'm gonna do weightlifting now.
I wasn't like really there, but I had some like times in my career when I was like, you know, 3 out of 4 weekly workouts were mostly weightlifting.
Oh, okay.
like I was in it, but it didn't really help.
Yeah, so
I got stronger when I was doing weightlifting like randomly. Seriously.
Well, I've seen a lot of people come through and say like, I'm just gonna focus on weightlifting. I want to do, and sometimes it's like I want to focus on weightlifting so I can be better at CrossFit, or I recognize this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there is some merit to that, and like actually doing like positional work, and sometimes like just doing like, you know, hang power snatch in a WOD isn't. Yeah, maybe actually doing like SOTS presses and you know, pulls and stuff like that in positional work is there a lot of benefit just to bring awareness to it. But like when they say like, I'm gonna do weightlifting for the sake of a weightlifting. I don't want to compete in weightlifting. I'm gonna train. I'm done. Fuck CrossFit. I'm done with it. And then they realize like weightlifting is you squatting in a corner and doing snatch, clean, and jerk and variants of those.
Yeah. Ad
infinitum for months at a time. But it's you in a squat rack.
And that's it.
You know, like, and it like, you have to be so excited about the progress and this moving the needle ever so slightly on your numbers and stuff. And be so self-motivated, and if someone is there, that's great. But if they're not, and most people aren't, they like CrossFit for a reason. Camaraderie.
Yeah.
The communal suffering. The constant variance, randomness, the entertainment factor.
Yeah.
From there, the wide swath of movements to improve. I mean, you may still be getting better, but it's like across a wide spectrum of like, there's a million things for you to get better at, you know, from there. Whereas when you just do weightlifting or powerlifting, and it's kind of like you and your percentages and you in the squat rack, and you know, from there, especially if you don't have a coach or a team that you're training with, and it's just kind of like, it can be a lonely endeavor. And I think that's a bit rough, and this is where CrossFit is, you know, kind of strikes that like sweet spot for a lot of people of like, yeah, you can get you can probably hit a lot of your physique goals. A lot. You can probably hit 80% of your physique goals doing whatever CrossFit. And if you don't have like specific goals of competing or going to sanctionals or whatever at that point, just gonna hop in classes. Probably pretty fun.
I'll stay in shape. Maybe I'll get stronger.
You won't get fat.
Yeah.
You probably look pretty good. You probably look better than most people.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get stronger. You'll probably get stronger for a while, and then after that, maybe you'll get stronger. But it's like the variety. It's showing up and just kind of saying like, okay, cool, I'll do this, and like maybe I'll be better than I was the last time I did it. You know, from there. And that, for me, like now in my training career, that's where I'm kind of at. I think I'm kind of retired for the fourth time. Like, you know, that whether it was retiring from endurance sports or from powerlifting or from CrossFit, not like I was ever actually competitive in the bigger sense, but kind of having these ideas of myself, or like saying like I'm really passionate about, you know, like my goal is to do this. It's like I'm trying to just not be a piece of shit, you know, like or like, you know, like I like training. I like it's fun. I like training. I like pushing myself, but like I don't have a lot of emotionality attached to it there, and it's a hard spot to get to if you've been there on the other end before. But that's what I hope that most people like. That's kind of like your dream version of your client. And I don't know about how your experience has been with clientele, and I mean, I'm new to Israel, so I don't know the scene as well as the godfather of vlogging in Israel, but like the sweet spot of a client is someone who has this, like, they're excited about training, they want to get better, but they're also detached from it as well. Like, they're just happy to be there. They're happy to work hard. They're happy to have fun. They're happy for your expertise and for your coaching. But there's not like this like emotional like, Vlad, I need the muscle up. I need to snatch 100, and if I don't, like, my value as a person is gone. I'm nothing. Like, I'm upset with myself because I didn't beat my old friend. You know, like those things. It's like, on one part of it as coach, you're excited. They're excited about performance, but on the other hand, it's like, hey, buddy, you're a graphic designer. Like,
friend, when I was in USA, I did friend.
Yeah.
I went to a gym and just dropped in, did a friend, and I had no intention to break my PR. I had no intention being first. I just wanted to move to a good while move. That's it.
Yeah.
And I did like 10 seconds above my PR time. And I felt amazing. And I was like really detached from it. I was like, it's okay. I did friends. Like, maybe if I pushed a little bit, I couldn't beat my all the time, and I'm good with that. I'm fine. This is what I tell always, like, my clients, if it's remote coaching or personal training clients, that if we like hit something heavy, like we're building up for something like a heavy one or something heavy, and I always tell them, if we fall in the 90% range of your all-time best PR when all the stars aligned and you're caffeinated as fuck,
that's great,
and you're ready, but now you can wake up, warm up, and hit 90% of that, good to go.
Right.
Everything is amazing. Like, you shouldn't always try to PR.
That's a very different thing for me. So that it's kind of this more like casual performance, from that point, and that's such a hard line to get to. Like, enthusiasm, but detachment as well. And like, as a coach, where I was like, I want you to care, I want you to work hard, I want you to get there. Ooh, but don't care that much. But it's like this, like, in the open is the same way. I feel the same way about the open. It's great. I love the open. But it can get weird. Of course you can do it better. Why do you need to do it? And no, I really don't want to judge you. like, I'm not going to, like, come in during open gym and judge you so that you can get a better score, just to prove to yourself you could get a better score. Because, like, I could have told you that you were lowballing workouts the whole year. And only now during the open you care, because you paid $10 to register for it, or
20.
Or 20, whatever. Like, whatever.
20, it's a big deal.
Oh, okay, all right. So it's you paid $20, and now you've decided that, like, your scores matter. Like, at that point, if that's all it was to you, I'll let you pay me $20 a month for you to work harder. Like, I'll charge you $20 more on your gym membership if it means you work harder. Like, if this is what it takes to you to do it.
Why should people do the level 3? Because, like, it's not a seminar. It's just a test, right? You study by your own.
Right. So
do a test.
So this is the stuff that I think is more interesting to potentially coaches who are listening to this and whatever edited version of
cut some stuff. The barking.
Yeah, no. There's a lot of filler in here, but I think anyone who's a coach has obviously gotten their level 1, and I'm assuming most people who got their level 1 here would have done it when there was a test at the end, right? There was a test. Yeah. Level 2, when I did the level 2, there was not a test. There is now a test at the end of the level 2.
Is it hard?
I don't know.
Because I heard like it's not like the level 1 test, because level 1 test was kind of like you need to know the material, like you need to listen. You had to be like on point with it.
Yeah. The level 1, I think if you go to the seminar and you listen to what they say, and if they say something over and over again, if they're like, write that down on your little notebook.
If people are doing jumping pull-ups, you should put the box.
Yeah, right.
They have a picture of it. They're like, well, I'll put the box.
Yeah.
Beneath him. Beneath would be a good spot.
Right. Yeah. If you just pay attention during the seminar and you've read the material, I think you should pass the level 1 test. Level 2 test I don't know about. I think the level 2 is valuable for coaches, for sure, especially if they're newer. If you're old at coach, you've been coaching for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, you may know a lot of it, but it can be a really good kick in the ass. Like a really good kind of like, hey, you need to pick your game up, because they'll rip you apart. Like it's great. And it's because they're completely objective. It's not your owner. It's not your friend. It's not your training partner telling you something like that. It's somebody who like doesn't really care. Like they'll say like, yeah, you're not doing a good job, or like you should do this better. And, I mean, they're doing it lovingly. Like they're really trying to help you along those lines. But level 2 is great from a coaching perspective of like actually the verbal, visual, tactile, making sure you're presenting economy of language, not using filler language of, like, or telling them perfect or amazing, and stuff like that. The level 3 is not a seminar, as you said. Like, you may not learn anything taking the test. Studying for the test, you may actually learn some things. And I think especially in this day and age where CrossFit is now, it's really good to go back to essentially these original documents and the original ethos of CrossFit and kind of understand where it was actually coming from. And this idea of like creating a program that was this ROI, time-sensitive program that was on this very general physical preparedness program. You're not training to be good at overhead squats for the sake of doing overhead squats. You're trying to do overhead squats and trying to like work on this like impossible task of virtuosity at overhead squats, because it improves you on so many levels and there's so much room for improvement. So it's like impossible to be perfect overhead squats, right? Because there's always something to improve to get better. And I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
But it's like that idea of like, CrossFit prepares you to do other things.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to longboard, you should be able to go skiing, or you should be able to go play basketball with your friends and not fuck yourself up, or you should be able to play football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, with your friends, because you do CrossFit. Like that's, I think, the original ethos and the original idea.
Mm-hmm.
3 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off, like this type of, like, it's really like this like gold mine of an idea. So I think the level 3, you can learn a lot from there. From an actual like career standpoint, essentially it's the only thing that's going to separate you as far as
because everybody can take level 2 and level 1.
I'm not saying everyone can or everyone has, and I'm not as familiar with the market in Israel, but if I myself now am shopping my CV around, I would say, certainly I have some experience and some like interesting experience, and part of some of the things that we've talked about, interesting experience wise, but like it is going to knock you up one more level. It does display essentially a further commitment, and nobody really cares. Like clients, athletes don't care about your certs.
Resume, yeah.
They don't care. You went to the kettlebell cert 7 years ago. Cool. Like, who fucking cares? Like along those lines. Nobody, I love when coaches in their bio have CrossFit level 1 and CrossFit level 2. Because it's like, of course. You're
coaching CrossFit, so that's...
Yeah, no, but the prerequisite for the level 2 is the level 1. So like, why would you list level 1? No, but anyway, I think the level 3 is is great as like it's a deeper dive. You get a little bit more biomechanics, you get a little bit more anatomy, you get a little bit more nutrition, and then it's a real kind of like shotgun blast of old school CrossFit information, some of which you would learn in the level 1. But I think for a lot of coaches, it would be a little bit more as like a career decision than like an education decision. I'm pretty sure the material is online. Like you can just
it is. I checked. Yeah, like you can just download it now without taking the test.
If you want to go just look at all the level 3 material and do it, you can do it. Fine, whatever. So, and the point of taking the test, then I think it's kind of a career decision for most point. Like at that point, you're not like just kind of a casual person who's interested in CrossFit. You're like, this is my career. This is something I want to do. And this is going to take me to the next level, or it's going to elevate me, or I'm just really interested in it and I just love it so much, from there. So, that's what I would say. The level 1 is kind of a perfunctory, like shotgun blast of info, like what is CrossFit. Level 2 is actually a little bit more of like mechanics, like how do you coach? How do you get better coaching? Level 3 is kind of the backbone of like more information, a little bit more, and kind of a check